invitation myself. And I thought we'd had more people, but I guess they couldn't come. Anyway, we've been busy, and I was thinking of doing most of it myself, but I had the misfortune, stupid, I guess I fell, and I hurt my back, and I couldn't do a thing. So I had my friends helping me doing this. I also would like to tell you that I grew up in northern New Mexico, up near a ghost ranch. My father had a big ranch on the Chiricahua Valley. He had cattle and sheep, and he had big fields of corn, big fields of alfalfa, and he used to have people come and help him harvest and all, and he was always giving things to them. But I grew up in the Chiricahua Valley, beautiful country. The river went through it. The mountains seemed to surround our land. And I've always been grateful for giving me this opportunity to grow up in the country. I was younger than my oldest brother, who was 6 years old, so I think I was sort of spoiled. I followed my father, all over the place, and we lived at the crossing. At that time, there was a dirt road that went from Abique up towards Chama. At the crossing of the river, we lived right there. There was a house. It used to take about a day or more to get from Espanola to our place. So the people would always stop at our house. It was like an inn. We had people from all kinds all everywhere. They stop and most of them brought their own supplies, in the covered wagons. But my father loved to have people around him, and he would give them hay for the horses and put them up in the corrals. And I followed my father around all over the place. I loved it. And the women, usually there were certain times, groups of people would go in covered wagons and would stop at our place. And the women would come in to the house. And my mother would invite them in to come in and make coffee, and they sit around and make tortillas and make food, and they'd laugh and make jokes, And there I was about 3 or 4 years old, running around all over, making myself a nuisance. But we weren't this kind of family that kisses and hugs their children all the time, But I knew they were there. My father was there, my mother was there, and I was secure and happy. My brothers were there. And some evenings we sit around like this out in the patio. And my brothers and sisters had gone to school. They went to school. They read, they knew Spanish and English. We were mostly Spanish speaking. And we learned English. I remember my brother reading Don Quixote in Spanish to us. And other times we didn't have any TVs or entertainment. So my brothers and sisters would do something funny. Like my brother would get a can, one of those 1 pound cans of coffee, small ones, and he'd get a toad. Somewhere he'd put the can on the toad, and the toad would hop around a little bit. And one thing my father used to do too, he planted tobacco, his own tobacco, he grew his own tobacco, and he'd cure it, he'd crumble it. And my mother would make little bags for him to carry his tobacco in. And in the evenings, we would sit out in the patio. He'd bring a big sheep pelt, and he'd put it on the rock, and he'd lay back on it. And I'd bring a little pelt and sit by him. And I'd sit there and watch him, because it was interesting to watch him. He had his pipe, and he'd clean it out with his knife, and tap it on the ground or on a rock, clean it out. Then he'd take his little bag with tobacco, and he'd put the tobacco in the bowl and tamp it down. And then he'd take out, in the bag he had a flint, and a piece of steel, and a little piece of rag that my mother had fixed for him that was very flammable. So he'd strike that flint with the steel, and he'd spark. And he'd catch on the rag, and he'd put it on his pipe. Coffee, he'd start smoking. We had matches, but that was his way. And I would sit there and watch him. And my brother said to me one time, "What are you watching?" "Un viejito loco sacando lumbre con una garrita." And my brother said, "What are you watching?" I said, "A crazy old man building fire with a rag." So now I feel so honored, really, that I've been given this chance to grow old and remember all these things. There are many, many more stories that I can tell you. I'll tell you one about witches also, if you're not interested. The people mostly the people, Spanish people and Indian people there, believe in witches and brujas, brasas, bultos, witches and their ghosts and fire things, I guess they didn't understand what went wrong. So they had their own way of explaining these were witches. And they would say that, especially, I don't know why they thought old ladies were kind of witches. Because they were old, and they were gray, and they wore black clothes. And they used to say, "Don't go to their house over there, their old lady, or witch, or witch." And they used to say, at night, they'll turn into owls, or they'll turn into coyotes, and they'll come and get you. And now I think, well, maybe they didn't treat the little old ladies right, and the little old ladies were cantankerous and mean. And they used to say that, especially owls, if you see an owl come to your trees or run at night, start saying, say, "Ecolote brujo, mañana vendrás cosal." And they would, that means, you say, "Witch owl, tomorrow you'll come for salt." And they say, "He's a witch, in the morning he'll come for salt." Well, we used to sit there in the evening and we'd go to bed, and one morning my mother was in the kitchen. She used to get up early to cook, and my father was out drinking, and she was sitting cooking there, and she heard a knock on the door. And she went over there, and "What is it?" And this old man came, and he said, I came to borrow some salt." My mother was scared to death. She said, "What? The witch is here. Remember last night I told him to come for salt? And here he is." My father screamed and said, "Oh, Don Timoteo, what can I do for you?" And he was a sheep herder. They used to have sheep herders and have a little house for them on wheels out on a wagon. And they lived out with the sheep. And he said, "My boss came and brought me by surprise, but he didn't bring me any salt." And my father told my mother, "Well, he's a sheep herder, Don Timoteo, is a nice man." And my mother said, "Oh, no, he's a ghost. He's a ghost. He's a witch. I'm not going to have anything to do with him." Well, I don't know. I could tell you more stories, I guess. But I don't know whether you want to listen to them. More.